Takuji, good morning. Thank you for joining us.
My pleasure.
Takuji, is the fact that Japanese manufacturers are planning to cut capital expenditure, is that the big disappointing element of this Tankan survey?
Yeah, I might say so. It is usually the case that the Japanese manufacturers revise up their capital expenditure as fiscal years goes on. They sent out a conservative capital expenditure plan at the beginning, and then they usually revise it up. So the fact that we saw a revision down is a big disappointment. What's
it going to take then for manufacturers to start spending more on capex?
I guess two things. One is the improvement in the global financial and economic outlook. So for that, we have to see some kind of resolution to the European sovereign crisis problem. And secondly, the yen. We think at the 76 yen per US dollar, Japanese manufacturers are just breaking even, almost making no profit at all at this level. So manufacturers would be happy to see yen weaken so that they can start to think exporting as a profitable business.
Do you think the yen will weaken? I mean, the yen is the haven, isn't it? Especially now that the Swiss franc seems to have lost its haven status. Or will Japanese authorities intervene again?
Well, we think, unfortunately for Japanese manufacturers, we do not see any significant yen depreciation in our horizon. But having said that, we do not think yen will appreciate that much. As I mentioned, 75, 76 level is really the level where Japanese manufacturers only break even. So we do think Japanese policymakers will be very insistent on keeping that level. So despite the financial inflow into Japan because of its safe haven status, we think level 75, 76 is going to continue for a while.
The government, Takuji, proposed this 12 billion yen stimulus package last week. The criticism is the government isn't doing enough. Do you think it is?
Well, I think it is. Elsewhere in the world, most of the sovereigns are concentrated on cutting their fiscal spending. So in that environment, it is actually fortunate for Japan that the Japanese government is feeling to be able to spend as much as 12 trillion yen, which is equivalent to over 2% of GDP, as a fiscal stimulus. So I do think the Japanese government is actually doing a fairly good job.
Takuji, just on a final note, you mentioned how important it is for the Europeans to resolve the sovereign debt crisis. From where you're sitting on the other side of the world, how are you perceiving things to be moving along in Europe? Do you sense that we're getting closer to that time when concrete measures will be announced, or from where you are, is there no semblance of a resolution?
Right. Well, like a few weeks ago, when the European policymakers said were like all over places, we were actually got worried. But in the last few weeks, we do think the European policymakers are edging toward making a consensus. So we are hopeful that around mid-October, when the EU summit meets, we will see some kind of a concrete policy reaction to all these problems.
Takuji, thanks for joining us today. Takuji Okubo there, the SocGen Chief Japan economist.